Hello and welcome to another Nocturnal 3D tutorial. Today what we're going to do is we're going to do a simple ZBrush sculpt using Dynamesh, and we're using ZBrush 4R6. So we're going to start from a sketch that I did years ago, quite an odd looking surreal character. And we're going to block that out and sculpt it in ZBrush because it's going to give us the opportunity to have a bit of a play with textures and that sort of thing. And maybe we'll go into importing custom brushes into ZBrush and that sort of thing, depending on how involved we get today. So let's get started. So here we've got side by side, we've got our Cintiq tablet here and our source image. So we're just going to maximize the Cintiq so you can see what I'm doing. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select Dynamesh from the submenu and just create a new Dynamesh file. Excuse me. So I've set ZBrush up so my touch functions are on. Yep, double checking there. So once I start sculpting, I'm also going to be able to use my finger to sort of spin it around on the screen. Let me see if I can show you what I mean. Okay, so I'll just change the source here. There we go. Okay, just look up at the corner. So you can see I've got my ZBrush up here, and here's my object, and I've got touch on, which means when I do start sculpting with my pen, if I just start hammering some stuff out really quickly, like that, I can actually use my finger and spin around the object, which I think is just a great interaction between Wacom and ZBrush. Very, very cool. So there you go. So if you're wondering how I'm spinning around the object, that's how I'm doing it. So let's maximize the Cintiq again now and start to get into the sculpt. So I'm starting with a standard tool, and I'm going to just change the brush sizes. And the brush size is up here. So you can see draw size, and this is the intensity. So draw size is what we want to select here to change how big our brush is. So we can see our brush is a bit bigger now. So we're going to start with some basic structures. We're going to bring out the cheekbones a bit and the forehead kind of area. And this is where we're going to create our chin, so we're going to just form a basic lower chin right now using the standard brush. So you can see just with a few quick strokes we've created some good basic forms. And this is where we can start to play around with pushing and pulling things again, just the same as if we're just drawing. So again, I'm just going to bring this chin forward some more. I'm referring to my original photograph a little bit so I can sort of see it's kind of Deadpoolish, kind of alien Deadpoolish. The head's a bit kind of round at the moment, so I'm going to wrong tool. Let me just reverse that. I think it's Alt. Yeah, Alt is to push. So what I'm doing is with the pen tool, with my keyboard, I'm pressing Alt, and that's pushing rather than pulling. So now we're just going to push in a little bit, just as if we're sculpting in clay to create the basic form of our head, of our skull. and we're going to do a torso like our drawing as well, so we're going to use the clay tool in a bit and just keep on forming our neck like that. As you can see, I'm looking really carefully at the sculpt from all angles as I'm going, because it's a bit like being a one-dimensional character and trying to see 3D. If it's just flat on the screen, you're in one dimension, or at least 2 dimensions, and you can't really see what the geometry is. So if I go straight on, it just really doesn't look like much, but then when I turn to the side I can start to see that there's actually quite a bit of geometry there. So I have to keep on spinning it around and referring back to my original drawing just so I can see that I'm getting the geometry I want. So let's take this brush tool down a bit in size. Start pushing in where we want to have our eye sockets. Cool. And our character's got a kind of skeletal nose sort of thing happening. Alright, that's good. It's coming along. Can you just push in a little bit and bring things out a little bit? I'm going to use the clay tool now, so I'll go up to our tool menu and use the clay build-up tool. There it is, so that I can kind of add some geometry here around the neck. Like that. Excuse my dogs. There's a dog wandering around, I think, today. There we go. Of the back, maybe start to come down and start to build on some of the shoulders. It's not bad. That's better. Okay. So now we can start to add a bit of more detail. So we need to kind of up the subdivisions a little bit before we do that. But let's see if we can just try and quickly smooth off some of these marks we made. So I'm just pushing the shift tool in order to smooth. And I can quickly smooth off a few areas before I start working on them. Again, use the frame tool. It's not bad. Smooth these areas off as well. Maybe a little bit off this edge. Cool. That's a nice base form to start with. Alright, so now let's start to add a bit more interesting detail. Let's see what we've got. We've got crumple, we've got curve, but we're going to try and use a wrinkle. So let's see if we can find a wrinkle. It's a lot to find. Oops, sorry about that. Smooth, soft clay, slash pinch is what I use generally to create my wrinkles. I'll show you what I mean. It's pushing, so I need to pull, so go Alt. So I can kind of create a nice hard edge there for in the eye with the pinch tool, and then I can also do the same to sort of make the nose kind of thing. I think I'm working too low subdivisions to really get a lot of detail, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the geometry, I think it is, and go divide, and divide that a couple of times. So now I've got a lot more to work with. Yeah, that's better. Okay, cool. Alright, it's a fairly scarred character. I'm going to use Rake. I really like Rake. Okay, just a bit too much. So I'll take the intensity right down. Again, that's too much. I want really low. Oops, that's not enough. Let's go intensity 14. Yeah, that's better. So I can kind of start to quickly add in some where I think I'm going to have some detail later, some texture. Let's see, what other tools have we got? This can be quite useful. This is the tool, the move tool. And you can see I can kind of start manipulating things and changing things around. So if I don't really like the basics of what I've got, I can adjust it quite quickly, like this. Oops, undo, don't quite like that. Yeah, so that's really cool. You can see I can really control things and add some extra detail really quickly using the move tool, creating folds that might be hard to sculpt. This tool is really good as well for if you're creating morph targets, because you can change expressions really quickly using the move tool, but it doesn't change the amount of geometry. So as in probably if you've ever done morph targets in any software, the geometry has to be the same. It has to be the same amount of polygons between the morph targets, otherwise it just won't work at all. So that's quite cool. Give him a bit more of a jaw like my drawing. Great, it's looking really stylized, and I'm kind of liking where it's going. Let's make it even more stylized. Awesome. It's a bit lumpy at the moment, but I've blocked out quite a lot of information in just a few seconds using that move tool. So now I sort of have to re-sculpt a few things. So I go back to my standard. Where is it? There's standard. Take my size back down again. Right, we're just going to take this part away a little bit. That's better. Bring this out a bit, give it a bit of an Adam's apple. Let me see if I can smooth in that crease a little bit. Yep. And then bring out the Adam's apple a bit more. That's not bad. That's cool. Sorry, I'm sort of getting into it as well. I've got a bit quiet, but yeah. I want to give him some shoulders now. So let's again, we're going to go back to our clay build up tool. Clay builder, there it is. That's actually, these are actually just standard ZBrush tools. There's nothing special about them. So if you've got ZBrush, you'll have clay build up and the standard sculpt tool. Break is in there as well. Okay, that's not bad. Oh, quick stretch. I like it. Get some more shoulders happening. Smooth it off. Alright. That's cool. It's not a bad start. Alright. So let's divide it a little bit more. And frame it. Zoom in on the eye area. So that's scale. There we go. Let's give him a bit more detail in his eyes. So I'm going to use another standard tool. I can use, let's try slash. Yeah, not quite as big and not quite as intense. So I've got a little bit more control over it. Oops. That's totally not enough. That's better. Yeah, it's nice. I like it. So now we can really, it's like a fine knife tool, clay sculpting knife. Just work out the eyeball area. Some other details that I didn't have control of when I was using the slash tool. Oops. That's better. Cool. Now we can really have some fun with the texture. Zoom out a bit. And again, I'm just referring back to my original drawing each time. Oh, autosave there. To make sure I'm matching what I originally drew. Which I am. It's pretty close in here. Move it kind of in the same way as the drawing. Let's have a look. Okay, that's not bad. And then we have a look at our original sketch. You can kind of see the similarity there. Obviously I've got the symmetry tool on with Wacom, and I don't have that when I'm drawing. My symmetry's all over the place and it's kind of a little bit wonky. It was a very odd sketch, very anatomically incorrect. Probably my sculpt is more anatomically correct, should I say, not atomically correct. So yeah, this is the point where I can kind of throw aside my original rough as concept sketch and just kind of enjoy doing what I'm doing with my new version. So I think it's saved recently anyhow, so let's just divide once again. There we go. Yeah, that's looking good. And add in a few more basic details. Again, I'm using the slash tool at the moment because it's the most like a palette knife or something like that, or a fine clay tool I might use when I'm sculpting. And this is a fairly exaggerated version of a character anyhow, so I can be kind of a bit rough and it doesn't matter. He's a monster. But control is pretty important if you want to make things look nice and refined. And I'm just referring back to my original drawing, adding a bit of artistic license. That didn't quite work. That looks better. There's no back of the head, so I can do whatever I want with the back of the head. Just to create some interesting forms. Make him look a little bit more alien, or demonic, or whatever he is. Not sure exactly what I was going for with this original sketch. Frame it properly. Cool. I like it. Not a very practical model for animating because it's quite high polygon. But I like the character. It's definitely got something going. It's better. Something's happening there, I like it. So that's just a quick start, a quick monster sculpt in ZBrush using Dynamesh, and I think we used about 4 tools. Yeah, we used the standard tool to build things up from the basic Dynamesh Sphere. Then we used the rake, I think, to just sort of bring in some texture. Then we used clay build-up to add a bit of geometry for the shoulders and back of the head and those kind of details, and the chin. We used the move tool as well to move some of the geometry around and build up some things and push some things back as you would in the physical form if you're clay sculpting. And the last tool we used is Slash, or this is Slash 3. So hopefully that's installed on your ZBrush as well. So I guess send me a message if it isn't, and I'll see if I can supply it to you. If it isn't licensed, or if you don't have to buy it as part of a package. I'm just doodling now. But yeah, there you go. It's a basic ZBrush sculpt using Dynamesh. And I mean, I could paint that. I could shrink it and digitally print it out and paint it physically, or I could start painting that in Photoshop, painting the texture in Photoshop, or directly in ZBrush if I wanted to, because I mean, it's a kind of interesting character to begin with. But I couldn't animate it because it's not really set up for that. And I'll go into why a little bit later on. But there you go. So thank you very much for watching. Let me just bring up my thank screen. Thank you for watching, and subscribe to nocturnal3d.com for more tutorials. We should have some more up soon. These are the first of the few. And I hope you enjoy having a play with ZBrush. Alright. Thanks again. See you soon.